may open your eyes. Tracy, I'm going to ask you to come. And our forewarner, she can tell it better than I can. That way you'll know the situation, the impossibility that we found ourselves in, the uncrossable river, the untunneled valley. Now, I know she's going to get emotional, and I'm going to get emotional, and probably my kids will get emotional, but that's okay. Because God made us with emotions.
When Phil said to me about helping him with this message, I thought he was going to have me to do a PowerPoint. And when he told me yesterday that this was what he wanted me to do, I said, oh dear, I don't know if I can do it or not. After Phil preached this sermon, we had Emily. And Emily was born perfectly healthy and fine. But 2 weeks after she was born, she got RSV, which at the time was kind of a new virus. Now it's well known. But it's extremely hard on little newborn infants. And for a couple of weeks we were in the hospital, but then she recouped from that. And we had an uneventful first year of life. After her first birthday, we celebrated, we had her baptized, and we were just rejoicing in the Lord that He had everything in control. 2 weeks after her first birthday, she got sick again, and we went to the hospital, and this time they told us she had adenovirus. And adenovirus was the virus that attacked the respiratory system. And the doctor told us at the time, he said, it's really just a really bad cold. And he said that it stays in the system for 14 days. She'll be systematic for 14 days, and then it'll probably take 21 days for the virus to run its course. Well, Emily had an odd strain of the virus, and her body didn't respond to it the way normal people do. And from February to June, we were in the hospital for 62 days. Most of that was in Columbus Children's Hospital. And the virus ate through her bronchial tubes so that she has holes throughout her whole respiratory system. When she breathes in, she can get air in, but when she goes to exhale, her bronchial tubes collapse and she can't get the air out. So if she takes a breath in, then it takes 2 breaths to get the air back out. At one point in time, she had a feed tube, she was on oxygen, and her lung capacity was reduced down to 25%. But God blessed us with a wonderful Christian doctor, and he told us, he said, you know, God's miraculous. He gives us extra parts that we don't need. He said, you have 2 lungs, and you really only need 1 to live a full, complete life. And of that 1, you can survive with just half. So he said 25% she can live. Will be okay, but we have to keep a close eye on her. And we made it through that period of time. Phil went off to Duke, he graduated from Duke. The fall came and things were going well for us. And Emily had her flu vaccine. And when she had her flu shot, she was on a medicine that was new at the time. It was believed to be very safe because it was an inhaled steroid that they thought just stayed in the lungs and didn't affect the rest of the body. Now they know from Emily's situation, it does go through into the bloodstream. So it was shutting down her adrenal glands. And when she had her flu vaccine, her body couldn't respond to the flu vaccine. So I had put her to bed, and I heard her making noise. I went in to check on her, and she was just laying there with her eyes open. And I didn't know what was going on. I went and got Phil, and I said, something's not right with the baby. I said, she's just staring. And so we went and called the doctor, and he said, bring her on in. And by the time we had made it to the hospital, I knew something was wrong, because she was jerking and she was drooling from her mouth. And the doctor came in and he looked at her and he said, give me the baby. And I handed him over to her, and he got up and took off running to the emergency room. And he told us, he said, on the way that she was having seizures, that he didn't know what the problem was, that they were going to get her in the emergency room and find out what was going on. So, of course, we had to wait outside while they worked on her. The seizures got progressively worse until she was in grand mal seizures, and they wouldn't let us in to see her. He came out and told us that her blood sugar was in the single digits, and at that point she had went comatose. And they let us go in finally and be with her. And he said, you know, we don't know what's going to happen. He said, you just have to pray and put it in God's hands, the typical things that a doctor would say. He said, kids are really resilient. And he said, when she comes out of this, if she comes out of it, he said, there's probably going to be some sort of brain damage. And he said, we don't know what extent it'll be. It might be very minor, or it could be severe. But he said, right now, she's in a coma. And the doctor told us, he said, if you have something you want to say to her, now's the time to say it. And they called Columbus, and Columbus brought a life crew to come and get her. And I went up to the bed. All this time I've been praying, you know, Lord, don't take my baby. Don't take my baby. And at that point, I leaned over and I kissed her. And I said, Emily, look for Jesus. Because I thought, Jesus is taking her home. And I gave her up. I let go and thought, God, if this is your will, here's this child. If you gave her to me, I'm giving her back to you. And we waited a little bit, and she started making noises. She started responding and coming out of the coma. She didn't talk. She didn't know us. We made it to Columbus, and through the night, during the night, she said, Mommy. And I picked her up and held her the rest of the night. And in the morning, the neurologist came in and he started running some tests. Well, she couldn't move her right side. And he said, this is probably from the severity of the seizures. So they were going to run, I think it's an EEG, I'm not sure where they put the things on their heads, and check brain activity. We prayed all day. We worked with her with that right side. The next day they did an EEG, and there was absolutely no brain damage. And you all can see her now. She has 42% lung capacity. Her lungs have remodeled, and she's up to 42% now. And she does pretty much whatever she wants. She went camping and hiking with the school. But I seriously believe, and Phil and I have talked about this, it wasn't until we let go. You know, we wanted to keep control. We wanted things our way. And when we reached the point that we said, you know, God's bigger than all this, and here she is, she's yours. And that's when things turned around and went in a different direction. And just like I told the kids this morning, it's not about how much faith we have, it's about how big our God is. And I just thank Him and praise Him.
God bless the day. Here, sweetie, I want them to take a look at you. Right here was an uncrossable river, untunneled mountain. Right here was an impossibility standing before you. Blood sugar of 4, she should have been dead.